Welcome. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mr. Shotwell, and you may not know that I'm the chair of the Global Studies and Service Department. And I am here today to introduce three seniors, Yuste Simanauskite, Gabi Gonzales Carpio, and Lauren Fadiman, who have completed the requirements for the Global Studies and Service Diploma. I would be introducing three other students as well, Zigimantas Javaltis, Nick Morgosia, and Eliza Price, but for various reasons they are unable to be here this morning. They too have completed the requirements for the GSS diploma. Before I turn over the podium to Yuste, Gabi, and Lauren, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to give you some background on the GSS department and on the GSS diploma program that these three have recently completed. Let me start with the basics. The Global Studies and Service Department is an academic department, just like English or history or math. We offer our own courses, AP Human Geography, Model UN, Service Learning, the influence of Buddhism in the West, and Honors Comparative Literature, for example. But we also cross-list courses that have their homes in other departments, AP Comp Gov, World Cinema, Literature, Civil Disobedience, AP Environmental Science, Honors Humanities, just to name a few. Almost all of these courses share at least two qualities. They are interdisciplinary and they have a global focus of some sort or another. They ask you to see the world through multiple lenses at once. Students taking GSS courses are students just like you. In fact, many of you have taken a GSS course already. Students taking GSS courses are students who are passionate to explore and to challenge what drives governments to function the way that they do, are passionate to learn about the fragility of our ecosystems and how we can save them, and are passionate to explore the astounding range of artistic expression possible in literature, art, and cinema. They are students like you who have an insatiable curiosity for learning about cultures new to them, encountering new ways of thinking, grappling with the big questions about what it means to be a global citizen, and not least, they are students who are passionate about living the Taft motto, by serving others first. The Global Studies and Service Diploma was designed to recognize and honor these students who not only think globally and act locally, but who think globally and act globally. As you'll hear in a moment, Yuste, Gabi, and Lauren each exemplify this form of global citizenship. There are three types of cross-cultural experiences that make up the heart of the GSS diploma requirements. The first you fulfill here on campus, working with the Global Journal, for example, or with the UCT Club, or on WorldFest, or as part of the Global Leadership Institute. The second cross-cultural requirement is one you fulfill in the local community, serving the community here in the Watertown area or in your local community at home. Many of those involved in the GSS diploma program, for example, do volunteering as an X, working at one of the local schools or at the Boys and Girls Club. The third cross-cultural experience is, not surprisingly, a global one. Students in the GSS diploma program have gone on one of the service trips that Taft offers to the Dominican Republic and Guatemala, or they have used page and pool grants to travel abroad to such places as Thailand, Mongolia, India, and Costa Rica, some of which you've already heard about in morning meetings this year. In addition to these three cross-cultural experiences, there is also a 3-semester course requirement that can be fulfilled by taking courses such as the ones I mentioned earlier. And as you might expect, there's a language requirement. To earn the GSS diploma, a student must complete an AP or Level 4 language course offered at Taft, or otherwise demonstrate fluency in a second language beyond his or her own. Most of you can say about one of these requirements that you've done, or say about more than one of these requirements that you've done that or are planning to do that. The Global Studies and Service Diploma was designed to be achievable by any Taft student. And I hope some of you walk away from today's meeting fired up about the prospect of earning the GSS diploma in the next couple of years. That's not to say it's easy. In fact, I'd like to emphasize the incredible effort over the past 3 years that you, Gabi, and Lauren have put into earning this diploma. They have done remarkable work as global citizens, work that they'll tell you about now. So please join me in celebrating their achievements in earning the Global Studies and Service Diploma.
How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Anne Frank. How wonderful it is that in front of me I have around 500 passionate, lively, and young hearts. How wonderful it is that today in my hands I have the opportunity to show you the what, the when, and the why in improving the world. Today, I'll gladly guide you through the 3 questions and show you how I managed to answer them all as a GSS scholar. Starting with the what. What does it mean to be a global citizen? Is it helping out Mrs. Frew with blood drive sign-ups at Taft? Is it working with Girls Inc. or through volunteering as an ex? Or maybe being global requires you to go global. Travel around the world and search for service. If in your mind you said yes to any of these, you are all right. A global studies and service scholar is a combination of global citizenship at Taft, in the local community, and in the global sphere. I, as a global scholar, have gone through it all. My experience at Taft was mainly related to my work as a Global Leadership Institute scholar. 3 years ago, I was a kid, trapped in my little circle of comfort and safe decisions. Yet, with the help of the Global Leadership Institute, my passion was kindled, and my urge to change the status quo became stronger than the boundaries of my inner circle. I broke free. Though living outside of my comfort zone is much more difficult and challenging, every moment is worth the effort. The GLI was more than just a project or a research paper. The program was a combination of new relationships, experiences, and discoveries. As a part of my local experience, I emerged in volunteering that Taft offers as an ex during the winter. However, my crazy and ambitious desires were tough to handle when I decided that I want to combine dancing and volunteering during the same season. Thus, I ended up dancing for at least 2 hours on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, in addition to that, volunteering on Wednesdays and Thursdays for 2 to 3 hours each day. But the crazy part did not end there, because I was volunteering not at one place, but at 2 places at the same time. Wednesday after classes, I would head down to a 5-minute walk to the Judson Elementary, and on Thursdays, I would be welcomed with a smile from Mr. McGee waiting for me in the red toaster to go to downtown Waterbury, to Girls Inc. This double volunteering experience taught me to appreciate the work of others and realize how important every single job and contribution can be to a local community, whether that would be stacking books, writing down names, or helping out students with homework assignments. All of them are equally important, both to the students and the teachers out there. Finally, my global experience took me far away, 4,000 miles to be exact, to San Jose in Costa Rica. There, I spent 2 weeks volunteering through Maximo Novel as an English teacher for young kids and adults. The different scenery, culture, and experience in a country like Costa Rica opened my eyes to the fact that even a high school student can be independent and emerge in such challenges that can vastly contribute to the well-being of others. Now, to the second question, when? Time is the greatest virtue of all. All of your years at Taft are priceless. Use them to your fullest potential. Taft, and especially the GSS diploma, is an amazing resource that can truly make your 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 year full of extraordinary experiences. Finally, why? You have to experience life to understand life. That's the sentence that could best describe my entire experience. Being a global citizen most of the time involves putting others ahead of yourself. Although this sounds like a difficult task, especially in a hectic environment like Taft, if you're willing to make this sacrifice, you are definitely one step towards becoming a global scholar. Now, ask yourself, what would you like to do with the next years at Taft? When will you decide to start your experience? Is it going to be today, tomorrow, next year? Look out before it becomes too late. But most importantly, ask yourself, why is being a global citizen important to you and the people around you? If you find answers to all of these 3 questions, the what, the why, the when, and the why, reach out to Mr. Shotwell or any of the GSS scholars, and we'll guide you through towards the path of becoming a GSS scholar. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I'm Gabi Gonzales. I'm a senior, and unlike Yuste and Lauren, I am not a GLI scholar. I only started to organize my global activities this year. So even though I recommend taking advantage of the time frame you have to pursue this diploma, it's possible to do it in 1 year. The key word here is organize, because I didn't start volunteering or seeking cultural exchanges just because I heard of GSS. Sure, you get a certificate in addition to your high school diploma, but that shouldn't be your only motivation. Global citizenship is about more than having a piece of paper to show for it. Before I started submitting proposals for my experiences, I was already on my 4th year of French. I had already gone to France on a cooking themed trip. I had volunteered at a couple local organizations and had traveled to the Dominican Republic with Outreach 360 during my spring break. Unfortunately, learning moment, these experiences didn't count towards my diploma, and although I was genuinely interested in practicing a foreign language and serving abroad and being a global citizen, I wasn't actively proposing these experiences as part of GSS. That doesn't mean they weren't worthwhile, but it means if any of you are thinking of traveling or serving anyway, GSS would be a great way to reflect on what you are looking for and what you've learned from your experiences. In order to meet my requirements, I simply took advantage of more opportunities to serve, to learn more about myself and my community. So here's what I did, and I'm still doing to fulfill my requirements as a GSS scholar. First, for coursework, I took Literature of Civil Disobedience, where for the first time, I organized an initiative on a social issue that mattered to me. Now I'm taking AP Human Geography, where we discuss the dialects of languages, locate countries on maps, and find similarities between religions that seem so different on the surface. And thanks to AP French, I found myself translating a text from French to Spanish when I switched my phone to French and Googled something for my Spanish-speaking father. I was able to bridge the language of my family with the first language I chose to learn. I am a heritage Spanish speaker, a Latin American girl, and I shared this identity with my community when I represented Colombia at World Fest. Then I spent my spring break with Outreach 360 in Nicaragua, which is in Central America, right there. It's one of 7 countries in Central America. For 4 days, I worked with kids who demonstrated an eagerness to learn, a joy for increasing knowledge in which we at Taft sometimes forget to indulge. And now, I'm volunteering at the Watertown Convalarium, or an old folks' home, on Mondays and Tuesdays, where Amy likes to tell me about her audiobooks, and Eleanor reminisces about gender divisions at golf clubs back when she was a serious player. This diploma is about experiences and impact. The writing components encouraged me to think about why I was serving, why I was sharing my cultural identity with the school, and gave me the opportunity to reflect on what global citizenship really is. I found that a lot comes down to a desire to understand. It's difficult at times to imagine a life other than the one we lead. My knowledge of foreign languages and my access to communities and people with stories so different from my own facilitate my understanding of someone else's reality. Humans depend on each other to survive. We need interaction and crave sympathy, a thing hard to achieve with so many barriers. We try to minimize them. We learn languages, we study history, we travel, not tour, travel. Think about it. When you learn a language, you eliminate one barrier. You open a door to a whole demographic of people. Suddenly, words that don't translate make sense, and you've crossed this bridge and connected with someone you otherwise could not have reached. That is global citizenship, actively building bridges. So I took my camera with me when I went to Nicaragua. I was on my way back to the volunteer house in the city of Jinotega. I asked this woman if I could take a picture of her and her dog. And what language do you think I asked her in? Spanish. All because when I rambled in English as a little girl, my parents made me repeat everything I had just said in Spanish. And as annoying as it was, it paid off. The good news is, many of you are well on your way to developing your own sense of global citizenship. This program is a test of your own motivation. Mr. Shotwell won't send you a deadline reminder. It's about the connections you want to make, the languages you want to learn, the changes you want to see in the world, and the tools that will enable you to do so. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Really quick, Ravino and I have a really brief announcement after this regarding Spring Fling, so I'm going to go quick. All right. Brothers and sisters, let me regale you today with a tale that begins with an acutely embarrassing confession and ends with a certain unexpected kind of rebirth. Most tales are like this if you start and end them in the right places, of course, and I've tried to do that, but endings are slippery things to stick, so to speak, and my speeches, it seems, do not always land where I hope they will. Alas. This speech begins in the woolen cocoon of childhood. I was 9 years old, newly wearing glasses, rather severely allergic to large swaths of nature, and terrified of the dark. I lived with my parents and my little sister in a creaking old house situated inexplicably on a highway, so the lights of passing cars would, at night, wash over our furniture in the most unsettling of ways. Thus, I was convinced from a young age that our front hallway was haunted by a massive, ghostly white goldfish, seeking vengeance, perhaps, against my poor pet cats, one of whom harbors pronounced homicidal tendencies. In retrospect, the ghost was probably just stray photons from a passing Subaru, bearing homewards an overworked and underpaid desk jockey on a Friday night. At the time, however, the former seemed like the only realistic explanation. On some level, I was still this person when I arrived at Taft on the first day of my freshman year. Now, to be fair, boarding schools are the exact kind of place in which one would expect a nefarious sort of haunting, so I will begrudgingly excuse myself on that point, but I was scared of much more than ghosts or the dark or ghostly goldfish in the dark. I was mostly scared of the sheer vastness of the world and how quickly it seemed to be barreling towards me. All of that is to say that Global Studies and Service has been a rock and railing and raft for me at Taft. When I applied for the Global Leadership Institute early in my sophomore year, I did not think I was particularly likely to be accepted into the program. As soon as I was, my old drumbeat of more realistic fears set in. Would I make friends? Would I be able to keep up with all the work? 8 months later, in the final breaths of August, I would find myself standing in the faculty room with a number of teachers and community leaders, celebrating a summer's worth of work that I had completed with 4 other GLI scholars, 3 from Waterbury and 1 from Taft, with Brass City Harvest. And 8 months after that, I would stand again in the faculty room to present my final GLI project, a study of homelessness in the United States and a look at some potential solutions, accompanied by a collection of short stories I'd written. With GLI, I learned how to speak without hesitation, how to use words with care, how to hold my own against 19 peers with whom I was privileged to debate, despite how often we may or may not have disagreed. With Brass City Harvest, I learned how to listen. The summer after my sophomore year, I spent a number of weeks in Waterbury working with Brass City Harvest, an urban agriculture program that reclaims brownfields, or land that has been used and somehow polluted in the past, to construct greenhouses and farmland, then donates crops to food banks across the city. I was there to fulfill 3 tasks: to help farm, to help run the vegetable stand, and to film a short documentary about Brass City Harvest and its relationship with the Global Leadership Institute. Each of these was a gig requiring my ears and my hands, and not much else. To hold a camera, a shovel, a tomato, to listen to a fellow farmer, a customer, an interviewee, a passerby, a plant even. To farm is to listen twofold, both to the needs of people and to the needs of the earth. It is a tough balancing act at times, but also our heritage as human beings. GSS and GLI gave me this opportunity to tie myself to the thread that binds all of us in this room to some of our most distant ancestors, the perpetual need to render food from the land, to bring forth life even from soil that at first seems too sullied to harbor greenery. And in doing so, to listen and to learn, foremost about plants, but also about the many injustices that lurk in our cities. It is easy here to take for granted the day's steamed broccoli and sautéed spinach, but food deserts exist even in nearby Waterbury, where corner stores often fail to sell fresh vegetables and people are unable to easily access supermarkets. How privileged we are every day from 7 to 8, from 11 to 1, from 5 to 7. How grateful I am to have experienced that stomach-turning moment of realization. How grateful, too, I am to have traveled with the assistance of a Hatfield grant and the blessing of the Global Studies and Service Department to Egiagig, Alaska this past summer, where I again was able to bear sprouts and buckets of water up and down tidy planted rows, where I was able to work on a Yupik language preservation grant, where I was able to film a short piece about the profound efforts being made in this community to preserve a vibrant but threatened culture and tongue. GSS gave me the opportunity to immerse myself. After learning to listen deeply and speak carefully, I entered a new environment alone and lived there for 2 weeks, open-minded, wanting only to give in return to my hosts even a fraction of the bountiful kindness and grace that they had shown me. If not for the guidance and support of GSS, I don't know that I would have embarked so confidently on that trip. I don't know that I would now appreciate the wide range of experiences that exist here, even in my own country, my own state, my own town. I refer to GSS as railing, rock, and raft. It is a rock that will let you get a solid foothold in the world as you transition, because really that is what high school is for, from childhood to college and adulthood, that will encourage you to learn a language and push you to explore the world from the classroom. It is a railing that will support you as you explore interests, even ones that you never thought you could possibly have. It is a raft that will bear you to places you never thought you would explore and serve. So, go on. Find yourself a pencil, a pen, a trowel, a spade, a paintbrush, a roller, a lab coat, a pair of gloves. Strengthen your back. There is lifting to be done out in the wide, wide world. And you, my friend, are strong enough to do it. How silly it is to live in fear. Thank you.